What's going on, brother? Welcome to the channel. Welcome to live tonight. And it's rent versus own. You remember me? I remember you, my brother. I remember you. Are you out now? Are you looking to use your VA loan as well? I know I would. I was your LT. That's correct. We're also live here on YouTube, so this will be great for other folks to kind of tune in afterwards, and we'll be able to save this for future references for folks who want to tune back in. So it'll be great. Tonight we'll be talking about rent versus own, what's right for you in 2025. Congratulations. Just got out honorable 4.5 years. Perfect. That's awesome. Time has flown, huh? It's crazy because um I did 5 years active duty as well in the military, and in total I did 10 years because I time in West Point. I say that counted for additional 5 years, and then I did 5 years active duty. I did a couple years as a law enforcement military police officer. I did about a year and a half as an MP, or corrections officer out there in Washington State, and then officially got out about a year and a half ago. And it's been so much fun being a civilian. It has been an incredible journey, lots to learn for sure, but getting out has been incredibly rewarding in that it's been challenging, has stretched me in many different ways to be able to figure out how do you make it happen? How do you make it work? Because in the military or any sort of job that you may have, there's this false sense of security that there's always going to be something coming in. And quite in fact, you have to be on top of your game, because if you're employed and if you don't have your own business, if they could fire you. You're a number at the end of the day. Even in the military, you are a number. And so that's the thing that we have to realize. Thanks for tuning in, whoever's on out there on Instagram. Please drop your comment below or your question if you got any questions on today's topic. I'm just kind of introducing myself and talking about my background, how I gotten started. And so even in the military, there's this false sense of security of I'm going to get my basic housing allowance, I'm going to get my basic subsistence allowance. And I mean, even in the corporate side, I know when I was applying for a job for this company called HP, if you know that company, cool. And I ended up not working for them, but I know companies like they provided COLA. It's your adjustment for living for where you're living, right? So for example, in Los Angeles, or if you're up in Washington, or if you're in Hawaii, I don't think Washington, Hawaii, and Los Angeles for sure. Those areas you might have to pay a little bit more because cost of living, and so companies will pay a little bit more so that you can live a little bit more comfortably, right? So those are things that came with the military for sure. They had COLA, and then also in the civilian side, certain companies will provide that for you. So I share all those things because there's a false sense of security that, okay, I get this cushion of staying in this company or in this organization. And so, but over time you kind of realize that, what if that went away, right? Unless you get some sort of steady income, stream of income. For example, if you get a VA disability, or some sort of compensation, or if you did your 20 years from the military and now you get the steady stream of income. And so all those things have been uh, things that you have to consider when it comes to transitioning out. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about renting versus owning, what's right for you in 2025. This week, the big question is, should I keep renting or should I buy? Or if you're already a homeowner, should I get out of this house and then go rent? Because I was literally talking to my barber. I just got a haircut. I was talking to my barber today, and same concept. He shared a experience, or somebody that he knows. He said his buddy owns multiple rental properties, but he doesn't live in a house where he pays for that mortgage. He's actually renting because he does not want that overhead of maintenance of having a house. Because when you have a house, we're going right into it already. I haven't even read my bullet points. But when you have your own house, there's things that you have to keep in mind for the upkeep, right? The landscaping, just the curb appeal. We haven't even gone inside the house yet. The exterior, the siding, the roofing, the foundation, the driveway, those things that are so important before you even get inside of the house of maintaining a house. And then when you get inside of the house, there's more things that you need to take care of now that are internal to the house, right? The plumbing, the electrical, the ceiling, the attic, all those things that are inside of the house. So when you're maintaining all these things as well, you're going to need equipment. Or if you're doing it yourself, or if you're not doing it yourself, then you are paying someone else, right? So those things you have to kind of weigh off. For me, I had started when I had my first property, I was maintaining all these things by myself. So I went out and bought a bunch of tools, and I went to Home Depot and Lowe's and A's, and try to get, the cheapest, not cheapest necessarily, but the most fairly priced equipment. Even went on Facebook Marketplace to get things that are, secondhand equipment, because I know I would need it over the long haul, instead of just going out and renting a piece of equipment from these stores, because you can rent out equipment, and that's something that you can also keep in mind when you're getting your tools to do your things, do your upkeep. So, but yeah, with maintaining your property, those are things I would really think about before I get into buying a house. But that's not the sole topic of buying a house. Is, hey, can I maintain a house? Can I do I have the resources for it? Do I know who to reach out to? Those are things you learn over time as well. I know I did that, or I was able to reach out to my realtor, or just buddies, or even your family members. They're a great resource when it comes to buying a house. They're a great resource because your parents, your uncles, or your relatives, they may not, all of them may not necessarily have a house, but they know how to take care of their houses because they've been living in a home for a while. Whether they bought or rented in a house, they've had to take care of their homes. So if you're in your 30s and or 40s, you're a millennial, and you're like, oh, how am I going to take care of this house when I buy one? Well, you have to realize that there's resources out there, or chat GPT it, man. Chat GPT it. So that's something that you can look at as well. And so now that's just the upkeep, right? Okay, now the payment. Okay, so you're like, okay, what about just the payment? So just the payment of the house, there's the principal, there's the interest, there's the insurance, there's the taxes, that kind of thing. Or if you even have the private mortgage insurance, or the HOA. So those are the fees to owning a house, right? But when you're renting, we'll talk about more about renting in a little bit. But for renting, you're essentially just paying your utilities and then your monthly rent, right? That's it. That's it. But just having a house, there's multiple things that you have to pay for, associated costs that come with it, right? Say the seasons change, and now you got to buy a certain product to take care of the driveway. Say it's snowing, you got to put salt on the ground if you're in a winter area or up north, right? But not so much here in Los Angeles. So those are some things that I would really think about: is the seasonal changes, where you live at, depending on where you're looking to buy and invest a house. You have to think about these things when you're buying the house. So now let's go on the flip side with renting the house, right? So flexibility is one of the biggest advantages of owning a house. You don't or renting a house. One of the biggest advantages of renting a house is the flexibility. You don't have to stay there. You can move. It's more liquid. The liquidity of your movement is much better. It's in your advantage, right? But when you're in a house, you have to sell the house, or you got to rent it out, or you're still stuck to it because you got a loan to it. Either you sell it, you rent it out. These are different exit strategies, or you flip it and you sell it, that kind of thing. But when you're renting, you're just staying there, and then when you're done, some people prefer month to month leases. When you're done, then you just leave, right? You don't owe anything, and you even get your security deposit back depending on what's on your lease. So it's so important to look at your lease. And going back to what I said earlier, my barber, he knows this person who owns multiple properties, but he decides to stay in the rental property. Why? Well, here's the thing. There's I don't want to get too much into the tax advantages, but I can see what he's doing so that he minimizes his costs, and then also he can stay there and he can move, and then say he wanted to invest in a newer location, he is much closer to that location because you're managing properties. You don't want to be stuck into a house. Again, going back to the flexibility piece, right? Um, and then so most of his money then is just going into the properties and renting those or maintaining those properties rather than putting on where he's in, if that makes sense. So, um, one thing to realize too is when you're renting, some places have rent controls. So like here in Los Angeles, there's certain cities within the Los Angeles County, there are rent controls. So like Santa Monica, West Hollywood, uh, areas, Inglewood, Beverly Hills, such like that. But at the same time, some of these cities they have a cap, so they can increase it. So that's what that means, right? So it's like up to 5% cap rent increase every year. For some without the rent control. So I believe Long Beach does not have the rent control, so landlords can jack it up. So just gotta keep that in mind when you're researching homes on Redfin or whatever platform you're looking to rent in a house. And so, um, yeah, one of the biggest things with just renting the house is the flexibility, and then not having to do the upkeep. Because I know if so like for me right now, I'm renting due to my life situation of being here, or if I'm gonna move out of Los Angeles, that kind of thing, right? And so if you're not too sure if you're going to stay in a one specific city long term, then sure, renting is for now for a year time frame. Right, I would highly recommend staying in an apartment or renting a house, that kind of thing, just so it gives you more flexibility and more option if you wanted to leave or not or stay there for a little bit. But at the end of the day, your upkeep is just going to be a lot less, right? But what I would recommend, if you can afford it, here's my recommendation transitioning into should you rent or should you own? Well, if you're just saying that, oh, I don't want to buy a house because I don't want to, um, I don't want all the headaches to, I don't want all the headaches that are associated with owning a house. Okay. I'm sure every person that has bought a house has gone through some sort of challenge or some sort of headache even after they bought the house. There's headaches learning and onboarding and learning about owning a house, and then there's more headaches when you're in the house, even after you sold it. What I mean by that, after you sold it, uh, because you're like, okay, well, I take that back. It's not really a headache after you sold it because now you're okay, you're free. Um, but then afterwards, you got all these tools. That's what I was getting at. You got all these tools after you bought the house, and then what do you do with it, right? You no longer need that, and you no longer need those tools that you had bought and all these resources that you have purchased to maintain the house. And where are you going to put it? Where are you going to store it? That kind of thing, right? But that's like a minor headache. um but what I was saying is, okay, if you're still reluctant to get into a house because you're not too sure, and that's totally fine. But if your finances make sense and you're in a stable spot and you think you're going to stay there long term, and you're willing to learn and educate yourself on the maintenance and being a landlord, those are the things that I would recommend, right? So go and learn it. There's a book called Real Estate Millionaire, I believe. It's a blue book. You can look it up on Amazon. There's also another book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's how you change your mindset shift on mindset shift on whether you want to take that risk, because It has to be a mindset, a methodical decision on you investing in a house because you have to take a little bit of risk. You got to have a little bit of faith in yourself and what this asset's going to do for you. Because if you look at the numbers at the end of the day, let's look at it logically at the numbers. The asset for properties in America has always gone up. Sure, it goes through dips, through recessions. You saw it several years ago during the pandemic, right? And then even now, still today, people aren't sure if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. It all depends on the city, the location. This is why you work with an agent. It all depends how you posture or position your property if you're selling it, or how you position yourself as a buyer, and how do you connect with the seller, those kinds of things, doing the proper research. It can be a buyer's market. So it's all up to you on doing your research on how you're going to see yourself buying a house. Because if you don't do your research, yes, you're going to stay renting because it's daunting. Sure, it's one of the biggest purchases that people make when it comes to their life decisions. It's a big decision. Most people just buy one house in their entire life and never move again. That's totally fine. Some people they move multiple times. Like for our fellow service members, they have no choice but to move stations because of mission requirements, the military's needs, or you're getting promoted, or even in the civilian side, right? When you get promoted, you take on a bigger promotion, a bigger job, a bigger desk. When you get promoted, you might have to follow where the company's headquarters or corporate office is. I know for my company, it's located in Connecticut. So those kinds of things, like if you're willing to move and progress in that manner, then yeah, you sooner or later you're gonna have to move. And are you gonna buy a house in that location and stay there for 3 years, or are you just gonna rent there for 3 years? Think about it. If you're paying, say, like for example, this is a really good easy example with the military guys, military folks, because that's also my background. If you're getting a basic housing allowance for $2,800, right? And then now your mortgage is also, it's, let's just say $2,700. Okay. Your mortgage that includes interest, everything, $2,700. You put your taxes and your whatever into escrow, your insurance into escrow. And escrow is that third party that handles all that so that you don't miss your taxes that year, right? So you say all that is $2,700, and the military or is already giving you $2,800. So you're cash flowing. You're honestly that's what most homeowners, especially veterans, during the pandemic, 2020, 21, 22, even with the interest rates being 2.5%, a lot of them were cash flowing positive simply because the interest rates were so low. And so, what's up, Eddie? And so that's so important to realize that God bless, brother, with the interest rate, with the cash flow, because say you were doing that and you multiply that 2,800 times 12, now that's $33,000, right? So you could take that $33,000, you put it into the house, or you could give it to someone else. That's the no-brainer, right? That's the no-brainer answer to that. But if you're just looking at it as, hey, what do I have to learn to be able to afford that house? Now you're looking at it backwards. You're looking at the cost associated with it rather than what you can produce from having that property, right? And so it's just a mindset shift when you're looking at the numbers. And this is why it's so important to sit down with an agent that can answer these questions for you. So um, with just the numbers, you can certainly see that um, just logically with the numbers, the finances, the return on it's amazing. It's amazing. And so it's up to you whether you're learning these things, or if you're new to it and you're um looking to invest. Just I would just recommend just sitting down with an agent and really discussing where you are at currently, and then moving forward and having these discussions. So with that, that's That's pretty much the big overall discussion when it comes to renting versus having that mortgage. So, with your questions, see if anyone has any questions here. Wave. I like Eddie. He just tuned in. So for those that are watching, thanks for watching. I love this can. Yee. I'm gonna end this now, y'all. Check. 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 Yeah.